Hello and welcome. My name is Philip and this is the next video in the timetabling series. Today we're going to talk about subjects. So this is probably one of the most important videos in the timetabling series because it explains and talks about the way we conceptualize subjects and what we've termed subject offerings. And this is very important in how we create the timetables, which you'll see in a minute. So subjects, as you might guess, is what's actually being taught. It's the class, it's the lesson, it's the subject that your school is teaching to your students. Language, music, PE, STEM, whatever it is you're teaching. A subject offering is defining who is teaching that subject and how you want it to be scheduled in the timetable. So we'll come to some examples in a minute, but it's just important to note that we have this distinction. We have subjects, and then we have a subject offering. A subject offering belongs to a subject, and you can have one or two or multiple subject offerings for any given subject. So let's start off by adding a brand new subject here. Let's set up something called multi-year level sport. By clicking on the new subject button, we bring up this modal and we can create a new subject. We give it a name. A four-letter code will be generated automatically, but you can change that to something that suits your needs. We have a couple of settings here that we'll talk about. We have a description, which of course you can enter if you like, and then we have a session capacity. So this basically defines the number of classes that can be allocated into a single time slot for this subject. So in most cases, you only want one class to be taught at any given time by that specialist teacher. But in this case, you might be creating a subject that can handle multiple classes at the same time. So you can set something to have no limit, and it will allocate as many classes from that year level that it can fit in, or you can set a limit. So in this case, I'll set 3 as the maximum number of classes that can be allocated during this subject at the same time. We can set some basic details here, like a color and an icon to make it appropriate. The other setting here, simultaneous offerings, I'll come back to in a minute once we've gone into more detail about subject offerings. So for now, we've got the details set up and we'll just press add subject. And here we have our new multi-level sport. You can see here it's the code, a summary of the maximum session capacity, and how many offerings it currently has. If you'd like to edit any of these details with any of these subjects, the ones that come preloaded with the system or anything that you add, you can simply edit the subject or you can remove it as well, and it'll give you a prompt to make sure you're okay. So that's our new subject added. Let's move on to the subject offerings. We see here this new subject's been added in, a subject offering has been added in as well. Okay, so it will start off with a one-to-one mapping. One subject offering. This is where we define, at a minimum, who's teaching this subject. So we're assigning this subject offering is being taught by, let's say, Angus Pearson. Let's say for this particular offering, we don't like the name, so we'll just change it to A. Pearson. Okay, so here's our subject offering. We have the actual subject at the top level, multi-year level sport, maximum capacity of 3 sessions at a time, one subject offering. And here's our one subject offering. But this is where it gets important. If we've got a subject, let's say music for instance, and we actually want to have 2 teachers teaching it, or rather we've got 2 subject offerings. So first we add in a first one, we go back in, we select music, we add in a different teacher, and now we have 2 subject offerings. So really what this is saying is we've got music as a subject, but we've actually got 2 different streams or 2 different offerings being taught by 2 different teachers. They have their own availability, their own schedules, and we need to make sure that as a whole, this subject is allocated evenly and distributed evenly, but we have these 2 different offerings and these 2 different teachers that could be teaching it. So I'll just go ahead and I'll go ahead and add in the subject offerings for the rest of these classes. I'll just put some details in here. I'll probably change the teachers later on, but you can just pop in a teacher, new subject offering, select the subject. If you happen to have a subject that's being taught by multiple teachers at the same time, you can simply add in 2 teachers. Now, this is not the same as having 2 subject offerings. You'll see here the distinction. With music, we have 2 subject offerings being taught by 2 different teachers. For sustainability, I've added in 2 teachers to the 1 subject offering. This means that we've got 1 subject teaching a class, but 2 teachers that are actually delivering it at the same time. Probably not something that would happen a lot, maybe something that'll happen with sport or some specialist subjects. For the most part, you've probably just got 1 teacher teaching it. So I'll just edit those details and get rid of that second teacher. Okay, so that's really all that we need to cover off here in subjects. The biggest thing to remember is we have our subjects, that defines what's being taught, and we have 1 or more subject offerings that defines who's teaching it and how we want it to be allocated. So when we come back to these subject settings here, we spoke about earlier about a setting called simultaneous offerings. And so now that we've got a subject that does actually have 2 separate offerings, music in this case, we can go and have a look at this setting and see how it might impact how it will be allocated in the timetable. So simultaneous offerings says for subjects with more than 1 offering, this defines if they can run sessions at the same time in different locations. And so what we're really saying here is, okay, we've got 2 music classes being taught by 2 teachers. Let's say most of the time their availability says that they're not here at the same time. Perhaps it's 2 part-time teachers. But maybe one of their days overlap on a Wednesday, for instance, and they are both here for some of that time. Can you have 2 separate music classes in 2 different parts of the school running at the same time? If you can, great. You could come in here and say, yep, we can have multiple offerings running simultaneously, but only 2 at the same time, or only 3. Or there's no limit to how many music subject offerings we can have running simultaneously. If, of course, you want to make sure, actually no, even if both music teachers are here, we can only have 1 music class running at any point in time. And in that case, you'd make sure that single offering is selected here in these simultaneous settings. This is the default setting. So only if you want to have 2 subject offerings from the same subject running at the same time, would you come in here and change it to either multiple offerings and setting a number, or to no limit. So that's the simultaneous offering settings. That's our subjects. These are our subject offerings. If you have any more questions about this, you can contact us at support. But once you've got this set up and you define your teachers, then that's the hardest part done, and then you can go into your timetables and get stuck into the good stuff. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you in the next video.